Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome. Hello. Welcome to our sauces and dressings webinar. It's good to see all of you. We're going to give folks a few more minutes to roll in. Thanks for joining us. It's around 9 p.m. here in the Israel office. It's 2 p.m. Eastern for those of you who are tuning in from the East Coast. We'd love to hear where the rest of you are tuning in from. Maybe shoot us a note in the chat with your name, where you're from, and your favorite sauce, condiment, dressing, anything that's in the category.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one. Also, lately, a lot of great sauces have been arising. So I think I would love to hear what people see in their menus or like their restaurants that they go visiting.
Nice idea. Yeah. Hi, Roberta. Good to see you. So those who are, hi, Susan. Those of you who are new here with us or haven't been with us for a while, my name is Miriam. I'm head of content here at Tastewise. I'm joined by the illustrious Luda Greco. Luda, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm the Tastewise product marketing manager. I'm very excited to be running this amazing webinar with Miriam. I think we have a very interesting topic, very trending. There's so much to cover, so it would be really interesting to see how we get down to the insights. Yeah.
Great. Awesome. So we're going to get started in about a minute. Just some quick housekeeping items for those that are either new to Livestorm or haven't been with us before. So you have the option, obviously, as you all see, to use the chat. Please use it liberally. We love these to be as engaging and collaborative as possible. So if you have questions, comments, you have questions for anybody else in the chat, you have questions for us, please use that at your discretion and comfort. We also have a question tool at the bottom of, you should see at the bottom of your kind of user page that will allow you to ask questions. You can also ask them anonymously. So feel free to make use of both of those. We're going to be using the full hour today. There's a chance we might run a few minutes over, so stick with us if you have the capacity in your calendar today. And again, thanks for being with us. Last thing, we also have emoji reactions enabled for the first time. So if you hear something that's particularly relevant for you or something you have a question about, feel free to throw an emoji in there. That's helpful for us because it helps us understand. Yeah, exactly.
That's sweet.
It helps us understand what to focus on. Hello from everyone. I love seeing you all here. We've got a nice presence from Mexico,
Look
North
at this
Carolina,
turnout.
Minneapolis.
You guys are killing it. So
Yeah,
exciting.
Arizona, South Carolina. I'm also from North Carolina. Hi, Angie. I'm from Charlotte. New Jersey, Wisconsin, London. Hi, Valentina. Thanks for joining us.
London.
Amazing. Charlotte is great. Awesome. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Some more folks might roll in, but we'll welcome them as they come. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, Luda, can you see the presentation?
Yeah, I see the presentation. Looks amazing. I love the colors. This time is a little bit different from our regular color.
We went for the yellow. We went for the yellow, yeah.
It's kind of like a mustardy color. I love it.
I hadn't thought about that. That is true. It's right on theme.
I know.
Great. All right, so we're going to kick off our top 5 sauce and condiment trends for late 2022, early 2023 with all of you. Exactly. We've been calling this the saucy webinar in the office. Luda's going to walk us through just an introduction to Tastewise for those that are new and kind of how that applies to what we're looking at today. And then we'll go through the agenda in just a moment. So Luda, kick us off.
Yeah, let's click in through the first slide. Great. So, in case you guys are new with Tastewise and this is your first webinar, or, you haven't joined any of our lives before, or you just, introducing yourself to the, our platform, I'm going to introduce Tastewise in 5 minutes. It's going to be really, really quick. Any other questions, you can always add in the chat box below, and follow us on every other channel. So in the recent years, food brands have been spending $35 billion approximately on product innovation. But a lot of these processes are slow, they're incomplete. A lot of time the market research is siloed, it's inaccurate, it's based on kind of tools that are outdated at many times. You can see on the left side of the slide that it's kind of a mess sometimes. Like you really want to push decisions forward, but you're getting stuck within the process. And what that leads to is about 90% failure rate on product launches. And this means that every 9 out of 10 products would fail to actually successfully launch, and that's even before they get to the market. Another thing that happens is that many companies, they overspend on marketing budgets just because it's, they're not using the right messaging. They don't necessarily have the tools to do audience segmentation or understand exactly the right position for their product. And at the end of the day, it comes down to about 45 billion missed sales a year for restaurants. That's kind of like an industry ballpark. But what we are really seeing is that the food and beverage industry, they want to innovate. They want to be out there with the right, data and the right information about their consumers to really understand what consumers want and need. But not all the time they are using the best tools for that. So next slide, please. Click. Thanks. All right. So when we're looking at taste-wise, we really are trying to focus on the three different ways to understand our consumers. We're focused on what people eat, why they decide to eat it, and exactly how they do that. These three questions have a lot of different elements into them, right? You can look at recipes, you can look at social media discussions, you can look at what people are ordering on restaurants, or what they do with their delivery services. All these different data sources are combined into TasteWise. Next slide, please. Yeah. All right, great. So basically, our platform is an AI data-driven platform. We cluster information. We use technology tools such as natural language processing, AI, and computer vision to really combine all these different, data sources like recipes, restaurant menus, and social media interactions, social media discussions, into a lot of different data views that offer you an understanding and actually answer many, many business questions that you might have. These are great for new product development, for the marketing, team members, and for sales as well within the food and beverage industry. Next slide. Yeah, I said it's going to be quick. So great. We actually work with some of the biggest brands in the world. And this is just kind of a ballpark of the different logos that you can see. A lot of these companies do product innovation with TasteWise. A lot of them, they do market research. They answer customer briefs. They also look a lot at recipes and what people are cooking and eating. They look a lot at information from food service, from menus and restaurant chains. So these companies, as you can see, have been working with us for quite a while, and we're really excited to show you what we have, for you today with the dressings and sauces and all the trends that we found. Everything that you guys are going to see today has been, researched with TasteWise. So Miriam is going to take it away with our, dressing and sauces topics.
Awesome. Thank you, Luda. That was a great rapid fire introduction to what we do at TasteWise. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to let us know in the chat. So we're going to spend the next 5 minutes talking about just kind of broad level setting. What's going on in the world of condiments right now? When I say condiments, I'm referring to dressings, I'm referring to sauces, and I'm referring to condiments kind of as a broad category. The more you think about condiments, the more complicated it can become. So just to kind of let you know, we're looking at this from a broad macro lens, but very much in the range of dressings and sauces. So I'll spend about 5 minutes looking at if AI and condiments are a love story and what that actually means for understanding kind of the macro trends in the market right now. We're going to spend around 35 minutes looking at the top 5 sauce and condiment trends to watch.
Hard
and
to
then we'll
say.
talk. Yeah, trendiment is maybe a new word. And then we're going to take a look at how to build a condiment trend report based on one of the trends that we're surfacing. So I hope that you'll stick with us for all of it. The slides are intentionally a little bit text heavy and graph heavy. That's something that we like to do here at TasteWise. Feel free to take screenshots of anything that's compelling for you. We'll also send out the recording and the slides to you at the end of the hour, so you'll have access to those, share with your team, etc. We're an open book. All right. So let's dive into the macro trends in the world of sauces and condiments, right? You all are here to take a look at the trends today. I would love if you could throw in the chat, maybe answer what realm of the world of food and beverage you're looking at. Are you working in, food service? Are you specifically working in quick service or fast food? Are you kind of on the brand CPG side of things, retail? Let me know. Would love to hear, so I can tailor this a little bit more towards what you're actually actively thinking about. But let's take a look at some of the kind of macro trends that are going on. So condiments in and of themselves are a really, really fascinating area, a really fascinating part of our industry. And the reason that that's true is because it's really this last touch moment. When a consumer sits down, all of us are consumers in and of ourselves. When we sit down to eat something, oftentimes the last thing that we add is a sauce or a condiment or a dressing. And the reason that we add that to our dish can kind of range on any number of what we call motivations here at TasteWise, any number of needs, problems that we're trying to solve. That could be something seemingly as simplistic as taste, right? Adding something that kind of takes that dish up a notch, all the way through to health needs or emotional things like nostalgia, which we'll talk about in a second. So some of the more interesting things that we're seeing as macro trends in this space, we'll start here on the left, looking at unique. And the reason that I really like this motivation, I'll explain what it means in just a moment, is because we're seeing it kind of as a whole in the industry, that consumers are really hungry for unique, special moments of consumption when they turn to food and beverage. This was especially true throughout lockdown and throughout the pandemic, right? People were looking for ways to elevate their day-to-day through food and beverage. But this also touches on adventure, right? And experimentation in home cooking. We've seen that home cooking has, as everyone knows, accelerated quite a bit throughout the past 2 years. And uniqueness also applies to sauces and condiments. So we're seeing this huge range. You can check out, this is over the past 2 years. So really at the start of COVID, April 2020, let's say, about a month into COVID, you can see how drastically this has changed over the past 2 years. Next, we can check out authentic. This is also something we're going to talk about at length here. Authentic is another trending motivation for sauces and condiments. People are really turning towards global flavors, which we'll discuss in depth today, and thinking about how to bring that authentic moment to their plates, right? This kind of also has its roots within the pandemic. When people were stuck at home, they were looking for ways to experiment. But as the world has opened back up again in a lot of places, we've seen that this has taken on new character. And that's definitely true for sauces and condiments, and we'll talk about that at length in just a moment. Next, we have gourmet. So kind of there's any number of ways to describe gourmet, but higher eating, a little bit higher price point. Gourmet can be both in home cooking and also in restaurants and food service. And we're seeing that gourmet is a trending motivation as well over the past 2 years for sauces and condiments, especially in the dishes to which those sauces and condiments are applied. So what's really interesting about all three of these is that both the dishes that sauces and condiments are added to and the sauces and condiments themselves are seeing these trends over time. And finally, we're going to talk about cult favorites. This is my favorite piece of research that I've actually done in a while. For those of you who maybe have not joined us before, my day-to-day is very much filled with using our platform to research the vast world of food and beverage. And what I really like about this realm of cult favorites is that it really speaks to our kind of cultural moment. For those of you who are able to join us at our first TasteWise Summit last week, our CEO, Alon Khan, gave a presentation about the role of AI and what that means for our cultural moment. We had someone from YouTube come and speak about pop culture trends and what that means for food and beverage. And it's definitely something that all of us know about, whether anecdotally from our own lives or in the work that we're doing professionally. And you can see here, I put three different examples here. We've got Chick-fil-A sauce, we've got Szechuan sauce from McDonald's, and we've got the creamy sriracha sauce from Wendy's. And cult favorite sauces, and what I mean by that is, quick service brands who have, or not quick service, right, but usually quick service brands who have taken a particularly popular sauce and have turned it either into retail or in some sort of like marketing campaign. They've really understood that there's a lot of fan base behind this. That's become a cult favorite, right? It's something it's not necessarily a new concept, but it is something that we're seeing a lot in the past couple of years. So I want to talk just a quick moment about each of these and then point to why AI is so important for this. So we'll start actually with the Szechuan sauce. So McDonald's actually, and I learned this recently, debuted the Szechuan sauce back in, I believe, the 90s to coincide with the launch of the Mulan movie, the first one. And it became an instant hit. And they actually removed it off of their menu and they re-release it infrequently. And the way that they do it is they really tap into this moment of nostalgia, right? That this very much kind of bookmarking it into this moment in the 90s where it got this really huge fan base. And in 2018, it was actually relaunched in the US. And it was actually spurred on by a plot point in Rick and Morty, if anyone has seen the show Rick and Morty. And it caused this craze that McDonald's was not prepared for, right? They didn't have the right distribution plan. They didn't have enough. And it became this, moment of so many people were hungry for Szechuan sauce and McDonald's just didn't have enough. So people actually turned to retail to find out ways that they could approximate either in their home kitchens or if there was a product out there that hit the mark and they weren't able to find it. So it was kind of a, both sides of the coin for McDonald's. On the one hand, they were able to garner a lot of interest in the sauce, and on the other hand, they weren't able to keep up with demand. Another example of this is the creamy sriracha sauce from Wendy's. It's an immensely popular, creamy, spicy sauce. It actually is referred to as the most popular hot sauce in America from a brand perspective. We're seeing that reflected in the data. There are some newcomers, I think, as well, but very much very popular. And much to the dismay of their large base, they removed it from their menu. Not clear why. There have been a lot of copycats in the market, but nothing has stuck the way that the original did, and Wendy's hasn't brought it back. So this is kind of on the other side of things, right? That they missed the mark with providing this sauce to their customers and understanding why it was so popular. And finally, kind of the product that has found the middle ground is the Chick-fil-A sauce. I actually have this in my fridge. It is a staple in the US in a lot of kitchens. It's a very, very popular, a little bit sweet, a little bit smoky sauce, often loved with French fries, chicken nuggets, things like that. And it's become this real presence in retail, right? Chick-fil-A very smartly understood that it had this cult following, and people were loving it when they went out to eat at quick service. They expanded it to their grocery line, and it's been a bestseller ever since. So that's kind of a moment where it was done well. So, why am I talking about all of this? And why does this actually have to do with the love story between AI and condiments? So as we said before, sauces and dressings are a really interesting category because they're part and parcel of a dish, right? People aren't eating condiments on their own, right? They're eating it as a pairing to something else inherently as the nature of the category. There are a lot of, different angles to consider when we think about why people are making these choices. Is it because it's a great pairing with a dish? Is it because it's a standalone favorite in and of itself and the dish is actually built around the condiment itself? And as quickly as things are changing today, the kind of, as Luda was sharing with us before, surveys and focus groups aren't able to tell the whole picture, right? If you sat down and asked 100 different people why they have Chick-fil-A sauce, in their fridge, they might tell you 100 different things. And it's very hard to tap into those various motivations that, got people to purchase and got people to use it in their day-to-day life. You'd also miss out knowing, how are people using Chick-fil-A sauce? Anecdotally, I use Chick-fil-A sauce not necessarily as a French fry dipping sauce, but I use it as, just another ingredient within salad dressing, things like that. So it's really important to understand the motivations. And that's, again, everything from, taste to health to nostalgia, brand loyalty, any number of things, gourmet, the things we see on the screen. And that's why AI comes to play. So all the research that you're seeing here today, AI has kind of done the heavy lifting for us to uncover these interesting motivations and allowing us to kind of project or anticipate what trends are going to be ahead for the space in the next couple of years. So on that note, let's kick things off. We're going to look first at our very first trend. This is sweet and spicy, the best of both worlds.
Spicy.
Spicy, exactly. So Luda, also let me know if there are any questions in the chat. I heard a few pings, but do let me know if there's anything here. So okay. We'll start off again by level setting. In America, all the data we're looking at today is specific to the US, but a lot of the trends we're looking at are actually macro. We have access to lots of different markets. If you're interested in a specific market, please do let us know. So we're seeing that interest in spicy sauces over time and interest in sweet sauces over time are fairly stagnant, right? Over the past 2 years, they've raised actually around 50% each, let's say, which is not insignificant. But if we look at their performance over the last year, there's not a whole lot of movement going on, right? They're pretty well penetrated, and that makes sense. Spicy and sweet are the top two taste profiles for American consumption of sauces and condiments. But what we can learn from here by looking at the growth over time is that there's a moment of innovation that's needed, right? Consumers are very familiar with spicy sauces. They're very familiar with sweet sauces. They're ready for something new. They're not abandoning the categories. Rather, there's an ample opportunity for innovation. So let's take a look at what that could look like. And the first trend that we've identified is spicy honey. Now, spicy honey, this is something that's been on the market for a couple of years now. You can see that reflected in the data, but we are seeing significant growth over the past 2 years in spicy honey. So if you take a look on the left, this is the growth of menu mentions in American food service over the past 2 years, again, since that April kind of right at the start of the pandemic date here. The reason that we're kind of benchmarking back to April of 2020 is because there's been so much change that we really want to understand the roots of trends and how they're progressing over time. So we can see that spicy honey has appeared on menus at a rate 200 roughly % higher than it was 2 years ago. Whereas consumer discussions on social media of spicy honey, which is a really, really great proxy for understanding consumption in and of itself, is up almost 350%, so 344% with a clear spike in the last couple of months. So while spicy honey is not necessarily new, it is expanding significantly. We're seeing that definitely in menu presence and, of course, in the consumer consumption. You can see some examples here on the left and right. So AR's Hot Southern Honey, Red Clay, Mike's Hot Honey, the Bee's Knees. These are all different brands. Again, anecdotally, I have most of these in my kitchen, and I find them to be very versatile additions to my pantry.
I'm so intrigued by the taste of it since we discussed it.
Yeah. Shoot us a note in the chat if you've ever tried it. But this is a fascinating example because it's bringing new life to sauces by combining sweet and spicy in new ways that have a lot of applications. So if we look at the applications themselves, actually, before we do that, I'll note this. So in addition to, menus and social growth, we also have 400,000 engagements with the top spicy honey recipe in the US. So this is for home cooking. And if we drill down into over just the past year for menu mentions of spicy honey, we're already up almost 100% year over year. So again, in restaurants and in home cooking, this is definitely something to watch. Consumers are talking about it and they're really loving it. So let's take a look at some applications. So spicy honey is actually offering balance to protein-rich dishes. We're seeing by far and away the top dishes that spicy honey is paired with are protein-heavy, fat-heavy, very much a partner to meats and cheeses. You can see some examples here. This is an example dish on social media from Half Baked Harvest. You can see this is a pretzel chicken fingers with hot honey and cooling ranch. So again, finding that balance. What I love about spicy honey is in and of itself, it's spice and sweet, but it's often also paired with things that are cooling, right? So kind of finding this balance between flavor profiles, and we're seeing that chefs and consumers themselves in their kitchens are open to experimenting with this. If we look at trending recipes, we see everything from healthy chicken bowls to garlic and ginger meatballs with a hot honey glaze. So there's a lot going on here, but very much kind of existing in the realm of classic American cuisine dishes, and also a lot of applications within Asian dishes. The reason that I put here this cookbook screenshot, I don't know if any of you have read this before, but it's an amazing cookbook, and it talks about the concept of, and the chefs in the room will be rolling their eyes that this is something that I'm excited about because it's such a classic of culinary innovation. But salt, fat, acid, and heat, right? That these are 4 different components of making a dish really, really fantastic. And one of the things that spicy honey does is that it offers this balance within that. So if we look at acid and heat and fats, right? Fat we have from the meats, heat we have from the honey, and oftentimes it's balanced with salt and acid. So maybe there's like a little bit of vinegar going on. We see the limes here. So there's a lot of really great moments for using this as a balancing tool within dishes while also bringing some innovation. All right, let's check out our next trend. So next, we're actually going to be taking a look at citrus flavors within dressings and sauces. My clicks are a little bit slow moving today. You can see okay, Luda?
Perfect.
Great, okay. All right, so citrus flavors currently, they fill a rising taste profile, and we'll talk about what that means for sauces and dressings in the current moment. So what we're looking at right now is an overtime graph of 2 taste profiles for the sauces and condiments category. So we're looking at fruity and zesty over time. And we can see that fruity and zesty over time have actually seen significant growth, right? Fruity as a flavor profile in consumer interest is up 131% year over year, whereas zesty is actually up 75% year over year. You see that here. So the black is zesty and the green is fruity. And these are both 2 flavor profiles that are growing for sauce and condiments in and of themselves, but B, are really highly correlated to citrus. And you'll notice here what I've circled in red, that this is the seasonal kind of trajectory of both of these trends. We can see that fruity and zesty, as makes sense, citrus is often associated with warm weather, with summer, and something that's oftentimes associated with refreshment, right? So this is, something that's going to have natural peaks and valleys, but what we're noticing is that over time, those peaks are becoming higher, and the valleys are actually sort of hitting where the peaks were 2 years ago. And this is a really, really great sign for trend stickiness, is how we say it, or trend longevity. That year to year, when you see something seasonal, the seasonality is actually rising, and overall, the engagement with the category is continuing. So this is kind of the setup for why the base of citrus is actually a really great idea. You might look at this and be like, Miriam, obviously, citrus in dressings is not a new thing. This has been around for forever. We all know a squeeze of lemon changes the game. But this is where we can really use data to our advantage. We have lots of data points here to underpin that, right? So gut feelings, important in gut feelings, gut fillings, like what you eat. Funny joke. Didn't intend it. But gut feelings are important in innovation, of course, but when you can back them up by data, that can be even more powerful. So if we look at, there we go. If we look at kind of the star of the show is Yuzu. So Yuzu is something that was pretty much on everybody's 2022 predictions list. It definitely was on ours. We did every year we do a TasteWise predictions list for what's going to come up in the industry, and we definitely targeted Yuzu as something that's going to be significant. And we were right on the money, and that trend is going to continue skyrocketing into 2023. It's a fan favorite. It's a great example of the direction things are heading for the spices and sauces category. You can see that the trend line for Yuzu actually isn't so seasonal, which is very cool to see. If you remember that seasonality peaks and valleys for for those citrusy, like zesty and fruity. So you can see here that there isn't a whole lot of seasonality, right? We're actually just seeing some pretty great forward motion here, which is great because that's another sign for kind of trend stickiness. Citrus is really valuable because it can elevate existing sauces, for example, like mayo, right? Yuzu mayo, or it can be the centerpiece of a completely new innovation. If you take a look here on the right, I've actually pulled for us some emerging Yuzu condiment trends. So, and the size is correlated to the penetration of that trend in the market. These are all emerging, so they're still fairly low, but these are all areas that consumers are showing increased interest in. So we have Yuzu mayo, Yuzu cream, Yuzu koshu, Yuzu ponzu, Yuzu aioli. We've got Yuzu paste, even Yuzu ketchup, right? Yuzu wasabi, Yuzu truffle, Yuzu tartar. I think that's the most I've ever said Yuzu in just a few seconds. But this is kind of a great map to inspire us to think about what innovation could look like, right? I think when we look at condiments, it's easy to feel stuck in just a few certain buckets. You know, you've got your vinaigrettes, you've got your, you know, ketchup, mayo, etc. And finding ways to innovate within those can be challenging. And Yuzu is really great because it's versatile. It's seeing continued over time interest, and of course, relevance to those initial claims that we talked about. Within the sauce and dressing applications that we're going to look at, maybe if we have time, we'll look some at the end. We can see that gourmet is actually rising around 16% year over year. So that means that gourmet applications of Yuzu condiments are up 16% year over year. So that means that the condiment itself is considered gourmet and the dish that it's in is considered gourmet. We're seeing an 80% year over year for authenticity. So people really wanting to find applications for Yuzu that honor its roots. Oftentimes we find that in Asian cuisine and Asian dishes. And finally, we're seeing over the past year a 43% growth in consumption. So consumer interest, people are 43% more interested in Yuzu for condiments than they were last year. So all of these are really, really great signals for trend longevity. It's going to be around for the next year for sure.
Roberto said, Roberto said, Yuzu nice.
Yuzu.
You're so nice.
I love it.
You're so nice.
Amazing, Roberta. All right. So we'll head to our next one. So we're going to look at functional health and clean eating. So this is a category that all of us should be familiar with. Functional health has been the talk of our industry for a long time, at least since 2019. This is something that every single category in food and beverage has had to reckon with and think about when it comes to innovation. So we'll take a look at some of the trends here. So we spoke about at the start how sauces can be an awesome kind of last touch moment from consumers. It's really about choice, right? If you have a spread in front of you of 15 different sauces and you're choosing which one to put on your dish, that's coming from someplace, right? It's coming from a taste perspective or, you know, all the things that we've talked about before. So there's really any number of things that could be going on in a consumer's mind when they're doing this. It could also be, you know, any number of combinations that are going on. And a lot of innovation in you know, sauces and dressings and condiment industry have actually come from the combination of things, right? So not only just sweet and spicy, like we talked about for spicy honey, but things like, you know, a Thousand Island dressing and its roots, where it comes from, is a combination of kind of these classic condiments, etc. So when it comes to functional health, we're going to see that actually is going to continue, that fusion of different considerations, and as well as the idea of having a dish that is, you know, dedicated to some functional health priority, and that the sauce complements that or adds to it, which I think is a really interesting concept. So when we look here at the trending functional health needs for sauces and condiments, we can see there are quite a few here. We've got everything from metabolism all the way down to cleansing, anti-inflammatory. These are all functional health needs. To the uninitiated, functional health is anything that food and beverage can accomplish outside of the realm of assuaging hunger or taste. So anything that's related to health that isn't necessarily nutritional, but does help you accomplish things in your life. So whether that means, reducing blood sugar or having more energy, being able to relax, right? Medicinal applications, this is what functional health means. So if we look here, we can see that the number one top trending functional health need for sauces and condiments is metabolism. So this means that sauces are being used as complements to metabolism-focused dishes, and they are in and of themselves, aids in healthy metabolism. We can see that that's grown 35% over the last year. We can also see here, you can kind of check that out in the bar graph as well, just to compare them here. We can see that endurance is up there. I've actually highlighted the ones that are most interesting because they hit what we like to call the threshold. So they have, a significant amount of engagement and they're growing fairly fast. So we can see the next is actually fertility, up 20%, anti-bloat, up 7%, and energy, up 5%. So if you are a content marketer or a recipe developer or, a test kitchen chef or, a restaurateur, the applications are endless. If you're thinking about menu items or products, et cetera, dishes that are dedicated to each of these functional health categories, consider a sauce or a condiment that also, is very much called out for those benefits as well. So I've done some digging for us here, top sauces for metabolism applications, and you can check out the ones that are all either emerging or trending. We've got olive oil, ACV, coconut oil, salad dressing, etc. You all can see it on the screen. Olive oil is the top trending. It's actually up almost 28% year over year for metabolism applications within sauces and dressings. Salad dressing is a very broad category. That's up 20%, so a lot of innovation happening in this space. Avocado oil is up 25% over the past year, and mustard is up 109% over the past year. And again, all of this is for metabolism applications within sauces and dressings.
Miriam, we actually have a quick question from
Sure.
Roberto. So this is kind of more of a general question. I think this is something we can apply on the entire research. He's saying, how would you predict that a recommendation is a sustainable trend and not just a fad? I think I have an answer for that, but I would love to hear what you think.
Sure, you kick it off, and I'll add if anything is missing.
Yeah, from my perspective, it is looking at something that happens over time. So first of all, with TasteWise, we do have a 2-year data. So if something is sustainably growing, and we're also able to take a look at life cycle stages of each trend or each ingredient or each flavor, you can actually see this on the screen right now. And keeping up with that and seeing what happens throughout the months and the quarters and the years actually makes a lot of sense when you're thinking about whether or not this is a trend I can take into my innovation or my marketing campaign or not. Another thing is that if something is being both discussed on social media and recipes, and we can see that people want to, bring this into their home and put it on their plate and order it on menus, that's kind of a holistic view of data that we can see that it's not just a fad. This is not something just that people discuss now. I think we're going to give a good example of that with garlic at the end of the webinar. Sure. So maybe we can dig into that later on. But Miriam, what do you think? How would you know something is a sustainable trend?
Yeah, I think that's the big question in our industry, right? Is knowing in what basket to place your eggs. I think all of what Luda said absolutely holds true. I think the missing piece of the puzzle is figuring out what motivations actually underpin whatever product or ingredient, dish, etc. is trending. So a great example is kombucha, right? If you just looked at kombucha and you were kind of having to guess whether or not to bet on it a couple of years ago, it might be kind of hard to do that unless you understood exactly why people are turning to kombucha, right? Is it for the flavor? Is it for the functional health, for the gut health? By far and away, it's for gut health, right? And if you're able to identify that the motivation that's inherent to that trend is actually growing over time in and of itself and other applications as well, that's a really great sign for stickiness of that trend. I hope that makes sense. If you have more questions, feel free to reach out because it's a fascinating topic and something we think a lot about. All right, so we're gonna continue on our journey here, looking at kind of clean eating and functional health. So now we're looking at the clean eating side of the coin. no preservative sauces, we're seeing a lot of growth in home kitchens. So what does that mean? Sauces that consumers are able to prepare, people are able to prepare themselves in their homes that have some sort of really interesting flavor profile or accomplish some sort of goal. They don't have to purchase in retail. They're able to use at home, and it doesn't have preservatives. Preservatives are oftentimes linked to any number of kind of functional health issues. We're seeing that no preservative dressings and sauces are up 35% in consumer interest over the last year. In home kitchens, that number very much balloons to 100% year over year, which is crazy a lot. We're seeing that, people are very interested in cooking these recipes at home. These are often linked to anti-bloat ingredients and recipes. So included some ideas here just to inspire you. This one is really interesting. Going back to that relationship between technology and food. This is someone created this dish based on a cooking class they took over Zoom, specifically for no preservative dressings here on this dish with plantains. And over here, we see another social media post for a homemade wing sauce, healthy, good for the body, and also without preservatives. One of the cool things that AI does as well is that it allows you to track, kind of understand hashtags and how people are using them in relationships. So we can see here that both of these have no preservatives in addition for kind of the text. All right. So let's check out the new kids on the block. Spices and herbs. What do those mean for the category, and what can we expect? So what I like to call hero spices are going to take center stage in sauces and dressings. They are already doing so, and they are going to continue doing so over the next year. We're seeing here, you can see on the left of this red decreasing arrow, that the most penetrated spices in condiments currently are basil, cilantro, vegetable bouillon, black pepper, and parsley. All of these are, independently of sauces and dressings, these are well established in American kitchens, right? You're likely to find all of these in American kitchens, especially those that cook a lot. And the kind of big news here is that they may be well established for condiment use, but they're actually all declining. So that points to us that we need to be looking for, newcomers, new kids on the block to take the place of these. These aren't going anywhere necessarily, and they absolutely are, a safe bet because they are most penetrated, but they're actually decreasing. And why? Consumers are turning towards more interesting or more special, unique, right, authentic, all of those macro trends we saw at the top within their condiments that they're making at home. So a great example here is shiso pesto. These are Japanese relatives of mint leaves. So a pesto made out of this really interesting herb. We're seeing some saffron sauce, right? All of these are increasing, and we're seeing a lot of traction both in social media and in home cooking. And if we actually look at what people are experimenting with, so shiso and saffron are an example, we can take a look at this list of 20 right here. So if we look at the trending life cycle stage, which means it's already kind of hit that threshold of establishment and it's growing quickly, we can see that the number one spice or herb for sauces and condiments right now and dressings is actually saffron. It's growing around 16% year over year. It has a pretty nice menu penetration. We can see that tajin, mocha, furikake, beef bouillon, shiso, sazon, ranch seasoning, bergamot, and gochugaru are all those top 10. So if you're looking for a piece of data to show at your next trend pitch meeting, this is a great one, right? These are the top 10 spices and herbs that are trending for condiment applications in the US. If we look at emerging, which are less penetrated but growing very quickly, so this is a little bit more on the kind of fresh trend side of things that we're going to continue watching to understand if they have longevity ahead of them. We can see Mexican oregano, vetiver, betel, chervil, cassia, ginkgo leaves, and ginkgo biloba, lovage, black cardamom, and hoja santa. And the reason that I have circled these in red is because there's actually a prevalence here of leaves. So we're seeing that herbs that are very much focused on leaves, and I think back to that pesto application, right? We've got shiso, betel, ginkgo, and hoja santa. If we take a look, and this is going to lead us to the next one. You may have noticed in that list that there's quite a few Mexican spices. So for our folks that are tuning in from Mexico, this might be relevant for you. We're seeing in the US that Mexican spices are going to be gaining a lot more of a following in the condiments and sauces realm. Tajin and sazon, as well as Mexican oregano and hoja santa, those all have great applications in Mexican cuisine, and in and of themselves can be kind of repurposed and experimented with for dressings themselves. All right, I want to pause. Luda, anything coming in for us?
Kind of not for now, but sounds amazing so far.
Great. All right. So we're coming up on our last two, and then we'll do a little bit of live researching. So the next one is kitchen travel. So looking at global flavors and what that means for sauces and dressings. So we just looked at those, Mexican applications. Mexican cuisine is actually the third most popular cuisine in the entire US, right after American and Asian broadly. So a lot of interesting things going on there. But if we look more specifically, we can see exactly what's trending. So kitchen travel, right, is this concept. We did a webinar on it a few months ago. It's this concept that kind of emerged during the pandemic. Of course, this has always been true, but it emerged at scale throughout the pandemic, that people are using their kitchens to experience new cultures, new ways to interact with tradition, new ways to interact with new ingredients, different parts of the world. This extended all the way through to technology, right? So, anecdotally, I had a lot of friends throughout the pandemic that loved to, watch a documentary about a new area of the world and cook a dish that was relevant to there. But it can also kind of, extend to the rising familiarity and comfort that we're seeing in American home kitchens with hitherto unfamiliar different ingredients. So if we look at what's actually trending in the market, we can see that gochujang, I'm never quite sure if I'm saying it right. I've heard it said a couple different times. Feel free to correct me in the chat if you know that I'm wrong, but gochujang is trending over the past year only about 5%. However, it's been 40% since December. So this is something that is showing renewed interest in the market. We're seeing Szechuan sauce, which we talked about up at the top, that's growing 44% year over year. We're seeing that chamoy is up 16% year over year, and we're actually seeing that mole is the clear winner right now in the entire realm of sauces and condiments. In terms of what is the sauce or condiment that's trending the most in the US, it's mole. It's up 21% over the past year in consumer interest, and we expect to see this continue kind of moving forward over the coming years. So these numbers are if these are useful for you, feel free to take a screenshot and we'll send this out to you as well. We're also seeing that for mole, there's been 176% rise in social discussions since March 2020, so the start of the pandemic. We're seeing that there's been a pretty significant growth there. And we know that some of these are also growing in home kitchens. So if any of these are interesting to you in your portfolio, shoot us a note and we're happy to pull more data on them. I want to speak for a moment about chamoy. So you can see here that there is a kind of a seasonal dip, right? So in the winter, it's a little bit less interesting, but it's definitely for the summer months. That makes sense. It's an awesome sweet application. A lot of times used in popsicles or even in ice cream, the drizzle sauce, things like that. But it's also used in other applications as well. And we're seeing that it's seeing pretty significant growth over the past couple of months here. So I think this will be relevant for right now, the season that we're in. So if you're looking for something to create a recipe around or things to think about for the coming warm months, this is definitely a place to consider. And I think the last point that I want to make here about kitchen travel is that all of these are very much tied to authenticity and tradition that we looked at the top. But consumers are also not afraid to experiment, right? They're looking to kind of bring their own twist on mole. I'll share just, again, a personal anecdote. I hope it's not too much, but food and beverage is as it is for all of you, both a job, but also something that we love and engage with every single day. So one of my best friends is from Mexico City, and she came over to my home. We were making some mole, and we were out of the traditional ingredients, and so we came up with this kind of fusion new twist on mole that ended up being fantastic. It was not a far cry from the original, but it's not what I would call authentic. And it's become a staple in my home. I love the recipe. She loved the recipe. So that's a great example of innovation that consumers are willing to bring while they're also exploring the authenticity of the original ingredient itself. Last thing I wanted to share. And this is an important one. What I love about this category is that condiments and sauces are very much what we can call a gateway into more time-intensive cooking. So, mole might take a longer time, or gochujang, which is fermented, might take a long time, right? So finding ways for consumers to engage with these concepts by maybe buying some of this prepackaged, right? Some of the ingredients pre-made, it saves them some time and allows them to engage with these concepts without having to dedicate a lot of time. That could be a really kind of awesome opportunity within a space. All right, we're going to wrap up with these last examples. So we looked at the kind of South American or Mexican flavors within mole, and these are Asian ones as well. So gochujang, mole, and chamoy are all Asian for gochujang, South American for mole and chamoy. You can see here just some examples for inspiration. So we've got a dipping sauce here based around gochujang for these fried potato patties. We've got a delicious mole based on 3 types of chilies and 6 spices here from this social media user. And chamoy we have here as a chamoy-based dip, which is very cool. And down here you can see for these same categories as well, some trending recipes. the Bon Appetit version that uses gochujang in a meat dish is up, or it has 550,000 saves, which is a lot of engagement in the US alone. This mole dish has 29,000, and this taco dish that uses chamoy as an ingredient is clocking in at around 115,000. So just to give you some, real life examples of how these are used and how consumers are engaging with it and kind of the sheer volume here. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Luda. We have about 20 minutes left, let's say, which is right on the money.
Yeah.
So Luda is going to walk us through how to make our very own condiment trend report. If you have, a pitch meeting coming up, or you're looking for new moments of innovation in your portfolio, and you want to kind of get started but are not sure how, Luda is going to kind of walk us through how we would do that, what research methodologies we use here at TasteWise, and how you can uncover interesting insights for anything that you might see. Luda, do you want me to share the next slide while you kind of get started, and then we can transfer over to your screen? Okay.
So we have Louis. He's been asking about trends with ginger and turmeric. So actually, I was looking into it a little bit at the moment, and from what I could find, I could only see that turmeric is actually declining in the context of seasonings, in the category of seasonings. But I really want to invite you to go ahead and set up your free TasteWise starter account, and you can actually use TasteWise Spotlight to take a look at these trends yourself, and it should be really quick and easy, and you can see the kind of high level understanding of how each of these spices, I think ginger can be both used in a dressing and as a spice, but you can see how these perform over the last year. So taking it over to our trend that we're going to research right now using the TasteWise Spotlight tool. Miriam, I do want to ask you if you have noticed what I've noticed over the last few months with garlic confit. Have you noticed any kind of extra social discussions around it?
Yeah, for sure. Again, anecdotally, I see it in all of my social media streams. I've actually tried it out at home as well, and definitely seeing some growth around it for sure.
Absolutely. So I have been seeing these different ways to create, garlic confit on TikTok. I've been seeing this on Instagram. I've been seeing it on Facebook video, on YouTube, just basically everywhere. People have been hyping up garlic over the last few months. And in the beginning of this, these videos, I thought, and this has been like 4 months ago. I thought, oh, this is just, another phase, another trend. But it's just it's relentless. So I thought I'm going to have to check it out on, TasteWise platform. I have to understand this. And also I actually been creating some of these recipes myself at home, and kind of adding garlic to a lot of different dishes that I've never done before. So just, as a user and as a consumer, it affected me. So it really shows how social discussions, how online recipes affect us as a consumer as well. I'm sure you've seen this before.
Yeah, and my big question to you is, would you consider yourself a #garlic girl?
Actually, I looked as I was working on this today. My husband walked by, and he's just like, "What is garlic girl? What does it mean?" And I said, I don't even know how to explain. But yeah, this is an interesting hashtag. Garlic has been off the charts. Let's look at it from our Trend Spotlight tool. All right.
Great.
I'm going to share my screen real quick, and this is going to be a quick overview of our trend report tool. So I think you can see my screen.
Yep, looking good.
Okay, cool. So just as a quick reminder, opening your own TasteWise Spotlight account, it's really easy. You go to our website, get started, clickety-clackety your name, your email, and you're ready to go. So the first thing you're going to see when you open your TasteWise Starter account is our top trends dashboard. It shows trends daily. This is updated daily. This is kind of to get you inspired. Keep in mind that if you are using Trend Spotlight, this our free edition, you can also get access to the Spotlight tool with all the other countries that we now support data from. And this is only a growing list. So you can look at trends in the UK, you can look at trends in France. So this is amazing for our free edition users. So clicking into Trend Spotlight, we're going to look at a couple different things. We're going to look at garlic confit. So I've already actually pulled this up today. When we're looking at garlic confit, we can use our data filters. So I would actually click away from beverages because I do want to compare my results to the entire world of food and not necessarily beverages. And you can also click in through 2 years of data, or you can look at it from a quarterly view. You can compare quarter to quarter. And I can actually see that when I filtered out beverage, the trend of confit garlic has actually risen. And it's now grown by 34% in social discussions over the past year. And I do really want to see what it means. I've been seeing this on social in the last 3 months, but has this been rising over the last few months? So scrolling down into our trend performance tool, you can actually see that on social discussions, it has been steadily rising. And on menus, it also has been steadily rising. Now, I did want to look at recipes, and since recipes have risen as well, okay, I see that the shares of engagement are a little bit low. But as far as trend prediction goes, we're looking at a great rise. So, 1 second. Okay,
Luda,
great.
do you want to share maybe while you're looking at that, how we actually put together trend prediction, like why that's a module that we put stock into?
Absolutely. So as far as the trend prediction goes, the trend prediction module is not available for free users, but everybody that is a paying user can get access to that as well. So when we're looking at social menu and recipes data, we combine all these three data sources into one, and then calculate that into our trend prediction. The reason we're only giving a 1 year in the future trend prediction is because it's a little bit hard to be on the nose, with furthermore than that. So we're looking at 2 years data, back, and 1 year in the future. And this is just to give you a ballpark of what's going to happen with this specific trend in your category as well. So scrolling down, we can also see some of these next modules, which is dominating consumer needs. And here you can take a look at the consumer needs with a view of maturity versus growth. So you can actually, when you're using your report, you can look at the different motivations that people are looking at when they're looking at confit garlic. So people are really motivated about about roasted garlic, about grilled, about the Italian motivation as well. And then we can actually get inspired. And this is really great if you want to do whatever type of marketing research or, push forward into social media and understand what people are actually discussing in social media when it comes to your trend. So we have our Instagram posts. So you click away and you click right into each Instagram post. You can take a look at the actual, different types of recipes and, of course, different types of menus that offer this combination of garlic. And of course, with every type of report that you can do, you can export it and it's ready to go. So I think we're good with
Awesome.
garlic. Yeah.
Great. And what I really like about the way that you framed that is you started off by saying, for those of you, I see that, a lot of you are working in research and development, there's some in food service, flavor houses, quality research. Great. So this is relevant to kind of everybody across the board. We ourselves are consumers and we live in this digital world. So inspirations can come from anywhere, right? So Luda used this example of being inspired to check out a trend from social media, right? She was seeing garlic girls, seeing garlic confit trending everywhere. Wanted to understand if there was data that actually backed this up as a trend with longevity, right?
Yeah.
She then was able to understand within a matter of minutes. I think you did that in like 7 minutes. Able to understand exactly, what's going on with the trend. Is it trending? You could even drill down further into this. With whom is it trending? Where is it trending? With what pairings is it trending, right? There's there's so much data that you could look at here.
And you can also see exactly how many people are talking about it out of the entire data, right? So we have 1,800 posts just about this particular phrase of confit garlic. And you can also, switch them up and look at garlic confit, and this gives you kind of a different view into this data as well.
Right, exactly.
So the combination of research is really, really rich.
Yeah. Exactly. And to Roberta's question, in the middle of the webinar, when you asked, how do you know if something is a trend with longevity or a sustainable trend over time? I think something great that Luda did here was really to evaluate the motivations that are behind garlic confit. So if we see, for example, I'm seeing there that the dominating diet is for vegan. If you go back up to the here, perfect. Yeah. So Italian applications, right? Taste really matters. There's all different kinds of things in that web that we can look at to understand what's actually driving the trend, to then bring our own innovation spin to that, right? So if you're a flavor provider, you're an ingredient provider, you're a food service, right? Across the entire spectrum of food service, there's ways to kind of use this trend information to your benefit. So I hope that this was helpful for all of you. We have about 5 minutes left, so I would love to open it up for questions, comments, things that you're working on that you would love to get kind of some crowdsourced opinions on. There's a room full of quite a few people who are working on interesting things as well. So feel free to use this to use the community for your benefit. While we wait for some questions maybe to roll in, how about some emoji reactions? Let's see, was this helpful? Were there other things that you'd like us to focus on next time? Do you have any questions? Cool. Seeing some thumbs up. Thumbs up right back at you.
It was really amazingly interesting, and it made me really hungry, by the way.
Agreed. And I think that, the trends that we looked at today, I love the shocked one. Sauces. One of the biggest takeaways for me in doing this research is that, something like citrus, as I said during the research section, something like citrus for a dressing or a condiment, that's not necessarily a new concept, right? But understanding how it takes on new form and with what ingredients it takes on new form and with what needs and motivations are behind that moving forward, that's where the crux of this lies, right? And being able to back that up with data. So we'll make sure to send this out to all of you. Lewis, I'm actually looking, maybe we could do, why don't we do, if you're up for it, why don't we do just like a second looking at turmeric and ginger? Lewis, are you still here? Okay, maybe he's gone.
Let's look at ginger, because that's a really interesting one. Ginger is kind of, it's a very mature type of, it's a very mature concept, and it can be really popular with beverages. It can be really popular with, we do have a question coming in. Let's see.
Sure.
Hadab, do you have any insights, context around the top flavors you presented, meaning pairing, cuisine, appreciate? Yes, we do have insights.
Yes, we have so many, and way more than we could share in an hour. If you want to shoot us a note, either to Luda or I, or just info@tasters.io, that comes straight to me. We can take a look at that at whatever you're interested in and pull you some numbers, so we can understand exactly kind of what you're interested in.
And also, like, this entire research is written down as an article on the blog post, so you can look at a little bit more of a drill down of how we did it, how we reached these,
Yeah, absolutely. So if we just take a second or two and look here, so I've queried sauces or condiments or dressings. You could also just do condiments. I just like to be thorough. And you could do ginger here. So actually, let's just make this simpler for ourselves. Why don't we just do sauces and ginger? So I would just throw that into the query. Right now I'm in our Explore tool. So this is the more robust solution that we have. What Luda was demoing before was TasteWise Spotlight, which is the free version. This is something that customers only have access to. My Wi-Fi is a little bit slow today because I have a lot of tabs open. All right, so we've got sauces and ginger, and right now I'm looking at the ingredients panel. So I'm looking at ingredients and flavors that support sauces that involve ginger, right? So they're sorted by trend life cycle. So we've got early all the way through declining. We see a lot of mature concepts, most of which are kind of pretty stagnant, right? The highest growth we have is about 9%. So it looks like ginger sauces for fish is obviously a mature concept, but it's growing around 9%. If we wanted to see sauces themselves, we could filter a little bit more. Why don't we just look at condiments fully? And we could see exactly what sauces are being are using ginger and are seeing growth. So we could see, soy sauce, sesame oil, lime juice. These are all things that are being used with ginger. So this is a great opportunity for figuring out, exactly what could be in your wheelhouse or your portfolio and how you could innovate within them. You can look at the social year-over-year growth. You could look at monthly change, what's going on in the world of social. So, for example, 26% of consumer or of consumption in the U.S. of sauces that involve ginger also involve soy sauce. So that's a great metric right there. And there's 386 of these, right? Both pairings and ingredients. So you can kind of page through this at your leisure. If we take out mature, declining, and early, let's just look at, trending and emerging. So mayo, hot sauce, salsa, rice wine vinegar, aioli, vinaigrette. Here's gochujang again. I might want to roll with that if I was thinking about ginger trends, and just because we've looked at the other motivations behind this and seen that it's a big deal. Pesto might be interesting. Balsamic vinegar, right? You could filter this by what's growing the fastest. So I hope that this is helpful. We don't have a whole lot of time, but
we do have some more questions. But what I did is I copied them, and we would be sure to get back to you guys with the answers.
Thanks, Roberto, for being here. Thanks for everybody. Cool. Any last questions before we hit the road? Got about a minute left.
There are a few questions. So how about we do one question?
Sure.
All right. So we have a question from Hadar. She's asking, let's see. She's asking.
Oh, no, we just
do we have any insight? So we just read it.
Yeah. Okay. What about we do? Hassan has a two-part one. He asks, for NPD, how can we understand the core trends below for recipes, like metabolism, rather searching for single ingredients like lime or bergamot? By understanding, how can we get this consumer goal trends information and compare with TasteWise? That's a great question. I think your question is more technical, if I'm understanding this correctly, and I don't think we have time for it today. So please shoot us a note. Just we have your email, and we'll reach out to you directly about kind of the methodology of how we would do that. It's an excellent question. Shows me that your mind is in the right spot for understanding exactly how to research these trends. Essentially, you can query metabolism. Like you can query metabolism. You can query anything that you'd like. Any concept, any. It doesn't have to be an ingredient or a dish. You can do whatever you'd like with the platform. There are some days where I spend, a morning just for fun playing with nostalgia, right, and looking at exactly what ingredients are trending for nostalgia dishes, pairings, etc. Let's keep, because we have a fair amount of people still here. Maria, I understand that this information is mainly for the US. However, with information and additional insights, we can consider them as a global trend. It depends. Natalie, the answer to your question is yes. These will be shared for sure. Maria, yes. So the macro trends, yes, that we shared at the top of the call. It's important to understand that consumers are, of course, there are regional insights in every area, right? When we look at recipes, we can actually have pretty much a full global understanding of what's going on in home kitchens. And then we have certain markets that we have our full suite of tools available in. So if you have specific questions about specific markets, do let us know. Global trends, maybe we'll do another webinar on kind of just like global trends for certain categories like sauces and or beverages or whatever. But I don't want to give you a blanket answer of yes, because it's a little bit more complicated than that.
That's a great answer.
Wait, Susan has another question. Can we get info on which format is trending stronger? Cooking sauces, pastes, dry spices? That's a great question.
Amazing question.
Yeah, we could do that. How would we go about doing that in the time that we have? Susan, also shoot us a note at info@tastewise.io. Yeah. Maybe, Luda, do you want to put that in the chat? I don't know that I have access to the chat right now. Info@tastewise.io, shoot us a note. Yeah, you could look at, it might be useful to have a few in mind to think about what you want to query and what you want to compare against. We do have a discovery tool, which we didn't talk about today. I can just show you the screen. I don't know that we'll have time to get through all of it, but you could take a look at something like this. Can everyone see? So this is in our new product development suite of tools. We've got discovery solutions and validation solutions. So you could look at, ingredients and flavors, and you can actually compare between different concepts. So if you knew that you wanted to look at, if we think back to that yuzu example, a yuzu paste versus a sauce that had yuzu in it, right? You could do, that way.
This is a great use for the validation tool.
Yeah,
under the validation tool, you can click in any type of concept, flavor, trend, anything, compare them, and that would actually show you what is more trending.
Totally. Yeah, there's lots of different ways to do this. It's really a very powerful tool, and it allows you to look at whatever you'd like to. We have another question rolling in.
Thanks. Thank you, Susan.
Thanks, Susan. Please do shoot us a note. It comes through to me, and Luda and I will be happy to take a look at whatever questions you guys have. We want to make sure that you're as much prepared as possible for all the research coming up this quarter. Great, Sherry. Thanks for being with us. I'm glad you found it valuable. As always, if you guys have any feedback or things that you would like to see different or things that you loved and want to see more of, we are totally open to feedback and making these as useful to you. These are for you. So do shoot us a note and let us know. Luda and I are in some capacity on every one of these, so do let us know. All right, we're about 5 minutes over time, so I want to make sure to not. Oh, Lewis asked anything on Spirulina. Yeah, Lewis, shoot us a note for sure, and we'll take a look at this with you because you have a lot of great questions, and I want to give it the time it deserves. Okay, Luda, any last words?
It was really great, very insightful, great questions, really understanding where the people are at when they're looking at some of these trends. And very happy for everyone being here.
Agreed. So some final housekeeping things. Louis, I also just realized maybe it's Luis and not Lewis. Not sure. Either way, shoot us a note. Some last final housekeeping things. You will receive all of these slides. You will also receive all of the recording as well. We'll try to get that to you tonight, if not tomorrow morning, our time. We also recommend just head to tasterise.io, sign up for, you'll see it's there for a free account for Spotlight, and you'll be able to do what Luda demoed very much on your own. That's a tool for you. We don't have a lot of stake in telling you that. We really want you to find value in our tools and create great products. And that's it, I think.
Great.
Cool. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
See you later. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.